You should see by now that the smaller the required reserve ratio, the greater the amount of money in the economy. So if that required reserve ratio was to decrease, the money supply would increase in the economy. But by how much would that money supply increase? Well, we have to use a monetary multiplier. This multiplier is very similar to the multiplier that we used in the aggregate expenditures model. As you know, if you put money into a bank, that bank can then loan out a very large proportion of that money and keep some of it as its reserves according to that required reserve ratio. Now that money would go out into the economy, be used, and then be put back into, say, another bank. And that bank would then take that money, only keep a small proportion, and give out a whole lot of money as loans. And then that loans would go to another bank, and then that bank would keep very small amount of the required reserve ratio and then lend out the rest. So the money keeps getting circulated and continues to increase, continually. And we don't know how far that stops. But you can know how far that stops according to the monetary multiplier. The same way that income affected consumption continually, you can use the monetary multiplier to see the eventual effect on money supply. So the monetary multiplier is equal to 1 over the reserve ratio. So you'll get a figure, and then you can see by how much the money supply will change. If, let's say the reserve ratio is equal to 5%, or 20%, let's say. So it's 1 over 0.2, which is equal to 5. So the monetary multiplier is equal to 5. Now how can we use this to see the change in money supply? Well, like the aggregate expenditures model, the change in the money supply is equal to your excess reserves times by the monetary multiplier. So your change in your money supply is let's say your excess reserves were of 800. You combine all the excess reserves of all the banks. And it's 800 times by 5. So the change in your money supply is going to be equal to 4,000 at the end of the day. So if your required reserve ratio, was 0.2, your monetary multiplier would be equal to 5. You could calculate your monetary multiplier, times it by your excess reserves, and you could see how much money supply would increase in total. So know that the required reserve ratio has a very large impact on the money supply, just because a bank can lend out and get money back, lend out and get money back, lend out and get money back, continually do that, and this will be the final effect on the change in money supply.